The man convicted in the infamous double murder of a Bedford County couple in 1985 is once again in a battle over new DNA testing. In 1990, Jens Soering was convicted of the brutal murders of his girlfriend's parents, Derek and Nancy Haysom, in their Boonsboro home. He confessed to that killing more than once, but has since insisted he's innocent. Now, DNA testing is back in the conversation, but this time, Soering and his team aren't the ones pushing for it. It's two podcasters who believe they've found an avenue for new tests, but Soering isn't taking it.
That's probably the soft print, yeah.
Charlottesville reporters Rachel Ryan and Courtney Stewart have spent the last 3 years poring over the transcripts, documents, and evidence in the murders of Derek and Nancy Haysom. It's for their new podcast, Small Town, Big Crime. They set out to take a fresh look at the case, including exploring some of the theories Soering and his team have suggested for who committed the crime, and the science they say bolster his claims of innocence.
We had been at the press conferences where it was announced that there might have been two unidentified men that left DNA at the Haysom crime scene.
That it's a mixture.
That revelation came in 2017 after an expert on Soering's team studied the DNA results from state testing done in 2009. Neither Soering's nor Elizabeth Haysom's DNA showed up on the 11 viable samples tested, not even in the type O blood evidence used to convict Soering. But they said the DNA of two unknown males did.
The two men known as the Drifters, William Shiflett and Robert Albright, seemed like really a natural place to start.
Two of Soering's potential suspects were convicted in a brutal stabbing in Roanoke around the same time as the Haysom murders. Stewart and Ryan worked for months before finally acquiring Shiflett's DNA profile from his autopsy report, then told Soering what they found.
We had that compared to the DNA evidence left at the crime scene, and it's not a match.
Okay. What the DNA test results say to me is that Shiflett did not bleed at the crime scene. And that's interesting, but it doesn't really say that much.
They eventually were also able to eliminate Albright and a third potential suspect Soering had suggested, Elizabeth's drug dealer.
And I think what we realized, this is 2 years into our investigation at this point, is we had eliminated the three most likely alternate suspects, but we still have a lot of questions about who left their blood at the crime scene and their DNA.
DNA testing didn't exist at the time of the murders, and no one had developed a DNA profile for the victims. That could clear up a lot of questions. The key would be new testing, if they could convince Commonwealth's Attorney Wes Nance to agree to it. You are not in favor of having that evidence that's in evidence here that hasn't been tested. Why not?
Because we can't assure that we're going to get valid results.
Nance explains the evidence was open to the public after the case closed. Countless lawyers, reporters, and others have gone in and out of the evidence room with no record of who's been there or what they touched, let alone their DNA profiles to compare. That, he says, would just open a whole new set of theories for a case he believes was already decided correctly back in 1990. So the thing is, if Jens Soering's DNA is among the DNA profiles that come out, wouldn't that end all these questions?
Well, there's been an excuse for his 3 separate confessions. There's been an excuse as to why his co-defendant testified against him. There's been an excuse why a footprint similar in size to Jens Soering's was left at the crime scene by the killer. Don't you think there would be an excuse if we found Soering's DNA profile on the evidence as well?
Still, after months of research and many discussions with Nance, the podcasters developed a petition for testing on a list of items that have never been tested, including biological evidence they believe would still be sealed. Their petition began with an examination to first determine whether the evidence was too contaminated.
Only at that point, with agreement from Bedford County Commonwealth's attorney and our agreement, would any testing proceed?
Well,
Nance could have objected, but signed the petition, seen and not objected to.
that paves a way that the judge could have ordered the transportation and evaluation of that evidence if he wanted to.
The judge determined the two podcasters had no standing, meaning they don't have the right to request it. So they sent their petitions to those who do, Elizabeth Haysom and Jens Soering. He has standing in the case. If he were to sign that and submit it, would you also not object?
I think I would be in a similar place. I'm not going to request it because I don't think we're going to get valid results. At the same time, I don't want to be an obstructionist.
Jens was excited, said he would have his attorneys look at it, and then never really reached back out to us.
And we kept checking back, and months went by.
Jens and his team insist he's innocent, but won't pursue testing to prove it.
Why am I being dragged into this? I have asked for testing, and I'm asking for it now. Okay? Go ahead and test it, but I am not submitting a petition that is not legally required.
Soering's team asked Nance for testing back in 2017, but Nance declined. Soering believes the podcasters have an agenda to confirm his guilt in order to boost their careers.
The whole point of the podcasters' report is I'm not asking for testing because I've nothing to hide. I've got nothing to hide. I have asked for testing.
Soering says he can't file their petition for the same reasons he didn't file one in 2017. The statute requires that he swear under oath that the evidence hasn't been contaminated and that it may prove his innocence. The absence of Soering's DNA proves only that none was left on that sample. He admits there are ways around these issues, but readily agrees with Nance that the results would be useless.
What I'm trying to do, what I'm hoping for, right, is to get some clarity here. Who did this? I know I didn't do it, but I will not find out who did this from testing those items, and it doesn't get me any further.
Though Soering still won't file the podcasters or any other petition, shortly after that episode of the podcast came out, he asked Nance once again to initiate the testing himself. So he has asked you directly to test DNA. What do you make of that?
Well, he knows that I am not confident about valid results. And so that's a good place to hang your hat.
Nance believes the jury convicted the killer in 1990, Jens Soering, but he'd test to confirm that if the evidence were clean.
The Commonwealth isn't scared of valid results. I have a feeling that Mr. Soering is.
To go out now and to prove one more time that my DNA is not there gets me nothing. Gets me nothing. Gets me nothing.
The podcasters tell me that Elizabeth Haysom also declined filing their petition. They communicated with her through a family member. Soering, meanwhile, has been in his home country of Germany for almost 3 years now, after the state paroled both him and Haysom and sent them out of the country permanently. He says he's supporting himself as a frequent speaker about this case, an author, and a consultant.